G'day. Today we're doing a service and a repair. We're checking there's a bumpiness. The owner's complaining of harsh changes occasionally in his fair lane. It's an NL fair lane, a 1998 model with the 4-speed automatic transmission and the 4-litre motor in it. So we're just going to go and do all the basic checks first, like the engine mounts, the transmission mount, tail shaft, etc., and then we'll go from there. Now you can see when we have it in gear, yeah, you can see when I have it in drive, accelerate a little bit, this whole T-bar will shift a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. Same happens when it's on the road. Change through the gears, this T-bar is sort of wriggling around. So it might be one of the mounts underneath. So we'll just have a peek underneath first. So we're just going to check the engine mounts there at the front and this transmission mount. This one is a little bit flexible, probably over flexible. The rubber's probably softened on it, which usually happens when you have oil leaks. It'll sort of perish the rubbers a little bit, but it appears to me to be the extension housing bush. You can actually wriggle this whole bit. I don't know if I can hold it straight. You can see it. It's actually moving up and down a fair bit there. So I'm just going to check the oil level as well and just see if it has been leaking there. And another telltale sign that it has been leaking is all that there on that muffler. So you can see that as you drive along it just blows all that back. So it might not be leaking because there's not enough oil in there. Up here you only get splashing oil anyway, so it'll just be one of those annoying leaks. But I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's really moving up and down. And I can't really see if the seal's been leaking there, but it's pretty dry there for the moment. If that all checks out okay and it's still doing the same thing on these transmissions, more than likely the pressure control solenoid that's located at the rear of the transmission. So we'll just do a couple of these checks first and then go to the next step. Now with these transmissions, you let it, the motor's not running, you let it sit for a little while, approximately 15 minutes, and it should be just coming out of that plug there. It's 16mm filler plug. There we go, there's enough oil in there. So that oil might even be coming from that engine leak there. There's all engine oil everywhere, blowing along and showing up on that exhaust. So it's not leaking out of here, but that bush looks to be pretty worn. Okay, we've taken the pan off and I'm going to swap the pressure control solenoid, which is this one at the rear here. Now I haven't taken off the bolts right out, I've just loosened them and done them back up just so it's holding that valve body there. And don't forget, you've got to put your T-bar into first gear so you can get access to that bolt just under that selector lever. Once that comes down like that, you'll find that you'll be able to just pull that pressure control solenoid out easily. You don't have to lower the whole valve body. If if you're going to replace these other solenoids, then you can either do it like that. I find it a lot easier if you just take the whole valve body out and do it on the bench. But in this situation, we're just going to replace the pressure control solenoid, also known as the S5 solenoid, and go from there. Now I'm going to replace the two shift solenoids here. You've got the 3/4 shift, which is this one here, and the 2/3 shift, which is that one there. That one in the middle there's the car, which is a clutch apply regulator solenoid. You got the bar, which is the S4, which is your band apply regulator. And we're also going to replace the S6 solenoid. So the two shift solenoids in the S6, because he was complaining it was a little bit harsh in going to 3 to 4 shift. So to get these plugs off, you just get a little pointy nose scribe like this, poke it in the little hole. A little bit hard to get the angle there, but it just levers it out. I can't get it because it's hitting the exhaust. I need to get a shorter one. That off that longer bit, just shove that in there and it just levers off like so. They come off quite easily. So we've got that one there, which is a 2/3 shift, and take this one off, just shove it in the hole again and it just levers off, and you don't damage that little terminal plastic there either. And we're going to just take those bolts out. They're a T30 Torx head bolt. A couple of solenoids on there. When you put the little bracket on, it's important to try and get it so the angle of the terminals, when you put it back in, it won't be in the way of the pan. So you just get that angle right, or as you replace them, just pull it off and put it in the same spot as the other one. So what I'm going to do is just tighten up that T30 just till it's close, and then I'll just give this a little bit of a lever with a screwdriver just so it pushes those O-rings in nicely. They have got like quite a large chamfer there, so you're not really going to risk damaging the seal anyway, but you just want to make sure it's located properly where it should be before you tighten it right up. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and just tighten up these, and then I'll replace the S6 solenoid as well. I've just loosened taken the bolt off the S6, and that one just comes out like so. We've replaced these 3 solenoids there, and now pressure control solenoid. We'll just put it in, slide it in. Sometimes on these dampeners you'll see that spring in there. Those springs can actually break as well, so you just want to make sure that it's not broken as well. And that's just a matter of just sliding it back in, and it'll have the little slot there. Where are we? The little slot on there goes to the bottom where that bracket comes in. And another important thing is, don't forget that earth there. Okay, we're going to add a little neodymium magnet on these. They've usually only got the one magnet on there, but we're going to leave it up on that ridge like we do, and the same as the neodymium, just so it can work on the bottom side as well. Just make sure that you replace the seal there if you haven't. and be very careful that you don't damage that surface when you're getting it out. Don't lever it out with a screwdriver. The best way to do it is with a pair of circlip pliers. Okay, and when you're putting this little filter retainer spring on, I always put this side in first, and then you just clip it into that there. So just double check, because we've removed all these terminals, just make sure you've put them all back on properly. We've also double checked all the bolts, that we've tightened them up, and put all the terminals on. We've cleaned the pan rail as well, just make sure that's nice and clean before you put the new gasket on, or the rubber seal. If it's got road dirt and that there, it won't sit properly and you might end up with a little weep there. We're just going to replace the extension housing seal and bush there. So we've taken off the tail shaft, 4 bolts at the back there, and now we're just going to knock out the seal. I'm going to use a special tool that we pull out, pull that bush out without removing the extension housing. Okay, I'm just going to knock that seal out first with the bush, with the chisel. We just nip it on the end of that seal. You might have to do it from a couple of little angles. Now I can't see it because the camera's in the way. There we go. Okay, so now you'd have to either take that extension housing right off to replace that bush, to knock it out, or yes, we actually make these up. I've sold a few now on online. You can contact me if you're interested. They actually do quite a few different transmissions. They'll do C4s, Ford 2-speeds, 3-speeds, Borg Warner 8 and 12, Borg Warner 35, FMX, Trimatics, Power Glide 6 and 8, Asian Warner 55s, the A43Ds, as well as a whole lot of other ones. So what we do is we've got it on the slide hammer here, if you can see that. So we've got these little fingers here with that little step, and we push that into the bush, and you can see it locks in. And now what we do, and we just put a bolt through it, just so you can actually pull out that whole sleeve there. And I'll just do that now, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Push that sleeve in, and that just holds those fingers so they don't collapse when you're pulling it out. And we've got that on our slide hammer, and now it's just a matter of tapping it out with the slide hammer. There we go. One bush. And there we go. One bush. It out, you'll notice that there's a little lubrication groove there. So you want to make sure you line up the little lubrication port on the bush with that little groove when you're driving it in. Okay, there's the old bush. It just pops off those fingers there. can see that's what holds it. Bush, you can see how much movement's there. A little bit hard to see on camera, but there is a fair bit of movement there. There's that one, and the new bush. And they're a bronze. I like the bronze ones better than the white metal ones, and that's a lot tighter there. So like I said earlier, you got to make sure that that little lubrication slot is lined up with that groove in the extension housing on these. Okay, we've just got this little driver that we've got. We line up that slot. It's just a matter of just keeping it as parallel as you can. Oh yeah, a bit hard to do with the camera there. I'm not going to drive that bush right in, I'm just going to go up to the little chamfer there, so it's sticking out as far as it can this way, supporting the tail shaft. I've just driven it up to that little chamfer there, and you can see it's just sticking out a little bit there. And now I'm just going to put the seal in. And what I use is an old piston there that I've machined a little step out of, just so it doesn't push it all the way in. And we just try and tap it in as evenly as we can. And you can hear that different noise, different sound when this driver's there hit the extension housing, so you know it's all the way up. Just tap right around it. That top corner's not in yet, sticking out a little bit. There we go. You can see I haven't pushed the seal in flush, it's just sticking out. It's actually got a little chamfer on the outside of that seal, and the reason why I do that is so I don't push that seal in all the way, so it's slightly new spot on the yoke. This yoke's pretty spotless, so sometimes I wear a couple of little grooves there where the seal runs, so by not driving that seal in all the way where it was, it'll just sit on a new spot there. Anyway, we can put that tail shaft back on there and refill the transmission. And we're going to just fill it up with the Tritec ATF Universal, which is the equivalent of the TQ95 fluid that goes in these. Okay, we're going to put about 3 litres in, or 6 pumps of the pump, and then we'll just start it, and then we'll put the rest in until it just starts coming out of that hole there. With these, you check the oil when it's been warmed up and it's been sitting for about 20 minutes, and it should be just coming out of that hole with the engine off. Start it now, it's just started coming out. We've put 4.5 litres in because we've had the valve body down. And it's just, you can see it dripping down there. It a bit, and now we're just going to fill it up until the oil's just coming out of that hole, and then we can keep the motor running after we put the plug in. You test the oil on these with the motor off. Okay, the oil's coming out there now. We're just going to put the plug in now, and now we can take it for a test run. And when we come back, we just let it sit for about 20 minutes with the motor off, and then the oil level should be just at that point there where the plug is. Anyway, that's how we did the repair on this job. Changed 4 solenoids, including the pressure controlled solenoid, and we replaced the bush and seal, and you can see that's not wriggling nowhere near as much as it was. Ideally it would be good to change this rubber mount there on the transmission, but we'll leave that at this stage. And don't forget to check all your work. If you've taken the tail shaft off, taken plugs off, anything like that, and any bolts that you removed, just good idea to double check it. Anyway, I hope that's helped. Thank you for watching.